All right, tonight I'm in the company of one great radio voice, one great TV personality, and people still think I sound like a woman at the drive-thru. Tony LaPorta joins us live from High Limit. We'll see what we can get out of him. So here we go.
Racing Rowdy Ranch was created with absolute phenomenal job on that cold intro, and I goofed it all up by playing the Racing Rowdy Ranch ad for 2 seconds. So
that's what you're here for.
One of these times I literally had my mouse hovered over the clip and everything. But anyways, welcome back, everybody. Episode 41, as Blair mentioned. I got Mr. Tony LaPorta on the show tonight. We're very excited for this one. Obviously, we had Chase Rodman on a couple weeks back, and now we're just kind of going full circle here from the broadcast booth down into the pits. Hopefully you guys enjoy Mr. LaPorta as much as Blair and I do. But yeah, hopefully everybody had a great 4th of July. Everybody has their fingers intact, toes and everything from if you partook in shooting off fireworks. But yeah, I guess, Blair, how was your weekend before we jump in here?
I was busy building sprint car wings, so finally got a flat one because they're making the dish illegal for national tour here in August, and then out crew chiefing, and I should have put the tagline under my name there that I was going around the pits calling myself Sport Mod God because I'm 3 for 3 as a crew chief in that series. So behind the wheel, I'm about 0 for 24, and as a crew chief, 3 for 3. So it was a pretty productive and good weekend.
Well, maybe you should get a Sport Mod.
Yeah, no, I probably still couldn't drive it, but I could at least help some other guys get them around.
There you go. Well, good. Yeah, and we'll talk about everything that happened in Pueblo with you and Keaton. Sneak preview. Congratulations, Mr. Shore. But yeah, so we'll get right into it. Yeah, we really want to get this interview in with Tony. So yeah, without further ado, the ad that I accidentally played for our intro, Racing Rowdy Ranch, as Blair and I mentioned, got some new patches in, so be on the look. Take about a week or two to get those on the shelf, including some Throwin Sliders podcast hats. That's right, you heard that. Let it sink in for a minute. We finally got merch. So sorry for the 5-year delay, but we got merch. And yeah, so be looking on the Racing Rowdy Ranch main webpage there, and they will be posted there. So without further ado, let's get this party started. We'll play the ad and get Mr. LaPorta in here. Racing Rowdy Ranch was created with one person, one adjective, and one place in mind: the blue-collar racer and the crew behind the scenes. A word that can describe these racers and crews and how they live. Finally, a place where the straightaways and turns are these racers' pastures and hills, all bordered by concrete walls that could share more than their fair share of memories, even after several coats of paint. We are racing. We live rowdy, and we long to be at the ranch, riding for the brand. An apparel company designed to showcase just that, push the limits every day, and be proud of who we are. Visit RacingRowdyRanch.com now to order yours today. Saddle up, strap in, and live rowdy. Proud presenting partner of Scrubbin' Tires Media and the Throwin Sliders podcast. All right, and there he is. Welcome to the show, Mr. LaPorta. How are we doing tonight?
I am really good, guys. I appreciate you having me on. I know we were joking off camera or before we went live about cutting it close, so I do apologize. I hope I didn't hold up the stream or just the broadcast, but no, I'm really good, so I appreciate y'all having me on. It means a lot, so thank you.
Yeah, man. No, the pleasure is all ours, and we are really spread the word about this one. I will lead off, and we were talking in the pre-show about all the court cases being solved right now. So we may have an open one with Flow Racing. So I do apologize. 2 races ago? I don't even know where you guys were when Chase threw it down to you with the fan question of the night. And they asked, who was your first autograph?
Yeah.
And you went on to say Mr. Mark Neff, which we have an iRacing league with him, obviously CNS faithful here. And I recorded that and posted it to our page, and the fans went absolutely crazy.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Then we got some insight from one of our alumni, Brady Balderson. I don't know if
Yeah.
that name rings. Yeah. And he's like, hey, I race go-karts with Tony. You should definitely get him on the show. And I was like, I will reach out. So lo and behold, here we are.
That's really funny because Brady sent me a friend request on Facebook, like probably 8 or 10 days ago, and this will sound really. I don't know if you guys care. Can we swear on this? Does it matter?
Absolutely.
Oh,
It'll
yeah.
sound yeah, and then I'm not going to say anything that crazy. This will sound really shitty. But I was kind of like, wow, why is Brady Balderson sending me a Facebook friend request? I haven't seen or talked to that guy in, geez, I don't know, probably the better part of 15, 16 years. Really, since I got into announcing. But now it all makes sense. So I know that it all gets tracked back here to
Yep.
throwing sliders. So that's really cool. You guys are connecting people all over the world, whether you know it or not.
Yeah, and yeah, when I was sitting in my bed, laying next to my wife, and you had said that after Chase threw it down to you, and I just looked at her and I was like, "Did you just hear what he said?" And she's like, "No," and I literally rewinded it, recorded it, and she's like, "You're insane." I was like, "No, our fans have to know this. Like, we don't get that much recognition that often, so we gotta throw it out there."
Well, and it's like here's what's crazy about it is like, and like I don't want this to spoil it or anything, but I'll be completely honest with you. I don't know if I ever did get an autograph from Mark Neff, to be completely honest with you. But what I got from Mark and his family was a lot of just a lot of kindness. Mark had no reason to give a shit about me, right? I was just a kid a few years younger than him who was going to Windsor High School and was enamored, like, just my life was NASCAR and racing. And I also happened to be on the football team. And I don't even remember how I found out about Mark. It was probably a teacher who told me, oh, wow, you're all into this NASCAR stuff. You probably know Mark, don't you? And I had no idea. And I find out that here's this similarly large, tall, big person who loves racing and doesn't just love it, but does it, and also played Windsor High School football, which was what I was trying to do. So I'll be honest with you, I don't think I ever did get an autograph from Mark Neff because I just walked up and was like, "Hey man, like you're awesome," and I probably freaked him out. And but him and his dad Dave were incredible to me, and they let me go to CNS with them and help out, and I didn't know what I was doing. So yeah, I mean, I'm glad that you guys saw that and heard that, but I'll sort of kill the magic and add to it that I never once got an autograph from Mark. My first racing autograph was probably like Jack Roush or somebody at the NASCAR Darlington race my grandmother took us to. But Mark gave me, I got to sleep in their house the night before getting up and going to Erie, and I got to hang out in their shop way too many nights. And I just can't stress enough, that guy had no reason to be decent to me other than just he was a good guy. And he definitely helped set me on a path of like, oh wow, you can do this every weekend, and there's people that pay money to come see that. And so yeah, I never once got Mark Neff's autograph, but I got a whole lot of time and a whole lot of knowledge and just kindness from him. So I'm still a big Mark Neff fan. He's a really good guy.
Yeah, we can make that happen. I can get that for you.
Thanks.
We'll get offline and we'll exchange addresses, and I can have him send you that because we've as Blair kind of, so Blair's background was asphalt, so is mine, and then we kind of changed to dirt. But yeah, we know Mark pretty well, and matter of fact, to my computer here, this is 3 years ago. We have a Colorado iRacing league, and there's 40, 50 members. And it was when that late model stock first came out. And by God, if I did not beat Mark Neff in that race, and that is my screensaver with his 42 car, like on my rear bumper. And it was the best day of my iRacing career ever.
You got to have
like that.
You gotta remember those big and those little victories. So I'm happy for you. Good job.
Yes. But we'll get autograph for you. So going back to the Colorado. So were you born in Colorado or did you? Okay.
Yeah, I was born. It's lazy, but just kind of born around the Denver area. That's where mom and dad lived at the time. I was born in the summer of '93, and we had a. I don't even know what you call. I don't know if it was probably an apartment. Maybe like a little townhouse. Probably an apartment. Probably Arvada, I want to say, and spent a lot of my time in Littleton. where my mom's grandparents, my great grandparents, had a house in the Bomar neighborhood. I don't know if anyone will recognize that.
Maybe some of the viewers. I've spent a lot of time in Littleton, but I don't know that specific area.
I for the life of me, I don't know why I remember that, but it was a nice gated community, and they had a clubhouse and a pool and all that stuff. And so grew up kind of around the Denver area, and then when we were, I don't know, I think I remember first or second grade, I think they were building a house up in Greeley. My parents, they bought a new build up in Greeley, and we went up there and enrolled in elementary school up there, and moved up to Greeley. I don't know, around, like I said, second or third grade maybe, and then stayed up there and stayed in the same house in northern Colorado in Greeley. I always tell people, I got my mail in Greeley, Colorado, but I grew up in Windsor because we transferred over. I was in fifth grade. My sister was in fourth, and and my parents plucked us out of the Greeley school system and dropped us over into Windsor. And I went to Windsor schools from fifth grade to graduating high school. So, I always tell people I got my mail and I slept in a house in Greeley, but I grew up in Windsor. So I'm a northern Coloradoan through and through and through.
Yeah, no, I get that, because sometimes you want to be in a different school system or whatever. So totally get that.
I have a question to piggyback off that. So growing up there, and obviously in CNS a little bit, but did you feel that like in high school, so say you knew Mark Neff was one of the guys that raced, but that was kind of like nobody even knew what the hell you were doing on weekends if you talked about being at the racetrack? I mean, I'm sure if you lived in the South, that'd be a different story, or back in the Carolinas, obviously somebody knows everybody who races. But to me, it was like, oh, these guys race, and if you go see it there, everybody else is like, I don't get it. If you're not football, basketball, and I didn't even know, I don't know if you're the same way. I never heard anything about the dirt tracks in Colorado.
No, you're 100% right. I mean, and it's so eerie that you even like kind of referenced, you were rattling through some states, but you just happened to name drop Carolinas. So that's, and I won't waste your guys' time with the whole lineage unless you want it later. But my grandmother, my mom's grandma. So how I got my start, and Blair, it's so funny you say the Carolinas, because you're 100% right. Growing up in Colorado, I was not exposed to racing at all. Just like every little boy growing up, around the area, you know about the Rockies back before they were as bad as they are today, which, even in the early 2000s, you were like, okay, these guys aren't good. But you never thought they'd get to where they are. Grew up, T-ball, little league baseball, obviously played football at Windsor the last 2 years I was there, but, no exposure to racing, right? The great grandfather that I talked about in Littleton, he would watch racing, right? He might have the Daytona 500 on or the Indy 500, but I didn't know enough to care, right? So it all for me happened because of a relative in the Carolinas, my mom's mother. So not the great grandparents that lived in Littleton, but her mother. So just my grandmother. She retired, and with her, it would have been her second husband, my mom's stepdad, I guess. They relocated down to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, the vacation destination of that one part of South Carolina.
Yeah. Dirty Myrtle.
Yeah, dude, I love it. I mean, I joke about it, but it was really cool. I got to spend some summers down there growing up. And Grandma Sherry moved to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina after she and her husband retired. And I was just inseparable with my grandmother growing up. I mean, total mama's boy, total grandma's boy, whatever you want to call it. So when she moved, it was like, I mean, it was the end of my world, and we talked all the time. So in keeping up with her, once she moved down there, I realized, I learned about NASCAR through her. She got a part-time job working in the back, the gift shop in the back of an old NASCAR cafe. Did you guys ever know about those?
Yep.
I've went to a few. I used to live in Charlotte, so yeah, I've been to a couple. Yeah.
So for people who don't know, they were your average run of the mill TGI Fridays restaurant, but take off TGIF off the wall and slap a NASCAR logo, and it was the Daytona cheeseburger and the checkered flag chicken tenders, but that's how popular. Yeah. That's how popular NASCAR was in the 90s and the 2000s. People don't realize it, but it'd be like if every major city today had an NFL restaurant, and you just walked in and there were pictures of NFL players and stadiums, and it's hard to explain to people today, but NASCAR did have that kind of reach where, and I shouldn't say every major city, but in Nashville, in Orlando, in Daytona, in Myrtle Beach, in Charlotte, in Charleston, you could go, and there was probably a NASCAR cafe not far from you. So she got a job in the gift shop in the back of one of those, the Myrtle Beach NASCAR cafe. And so because she was an amazing grandmother, because she loved me, I just started getting, presents every couple of weeks, because that's what grandmothers with disposable income do. And I just start getting these race cars and these T-shirts, and more, I start getting these race cars that look like this one.
Tony Stewart.
Yeah, exactly. It's these orange number 20 race car keeps showing up, and they've got a guy's name on them that's the same as mine. And week by week, her and I just start. We have phone calls during the races, after the races. Did you watch tonight? Did you see what happened? Tony won. Tony crashed. Did you see? Oh, that jerk Jeff Gordon won. Whatever.
Tony got in a fight.
Yeah, exactly. Tony threw his helmet at someone again. And so yeah, because of, and I know this is a really long-winded answer, but because of a grandmother that relocated to the Carolinas, that's how I got introduced to racing, and I find all about this sport. And I just at third, fourth grade level, I just, for with no good reason, with no evidence to support this theory, I just realized that's what I'm going to do. I am going to be one of those guys who races on Sundays in those big, bright, loud race cars. And nobody in my dad, I love him to death. He's an amazing man, and he would agree with me, and he'd laugh if he was sitting here and could hear this, but he didn't know the difference between a hammer and a nail, right? He was not mechanically inclined. He didn't know what a socket wrench was. He didn't know what Allen keys were. He didn't know anything. So when I start coming back with ads for, shifter carts and Rotaxes and IMI Motorsports and the Trackets, and he's like, where did this come from? And I realized that all those guys got to the level they were at because they grew up racing go-karts and stuff like that. So that began a long, arduous, argument-filled couple of years of telling my parents that I absolutely needed this $6,000 go-kart because that's the only way I'm going to get to where these guys were.
Brother.
Yeah, and so and then to the second part of your question, yeah, I mean, once I got immersed in NASCAR, I'd go to school, and I swear to God above, my whole 7th grade year, I wore a Tony Stewart fire suit replica jacket. You remember those thick jackets you could get? And it was a replica of their fire suit. And I mean, it looked like, people
the Chase Authentic one?
Yes,
was like $200. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. I got that for a Christmas present one year, and it must have been the winter of my 7th grade year or something. I wore that jacket to school every single day, and people called me NASCAR Tony. And it wasn't a good nickname. It wasn't like, heck yeah, here comes NASCAR Tony, dude. He's so cool.
It's like, look at this clown.
Yeah, no, truly. And that's what it was I had all the middle school jocks, the guys that played football and basketball. And it was just, that's not even a sport what you like. They don't even, that's not even physical what they do. And I'd get in like knockdown, drag out, screaming arguments with kids. They're in a 140-degree race car for 4 hours at a time. They sweat 10 pounds of sweat. They lose 10 pounds of sweat per race. At Talladega and Daytona, they can't even remember how to drive home. They're so mentally drained. And people are like, all right, Jesus. All right. Yeah, shut up. And so, yeah, my early years was spent debating the legitimacy of NASCAR to a bunch of Northern Colorado hayseeds who just were like, Broncos, Rockies, Nuggets, Avs. That's all that matters. And I'm just like Dover's this weekend. So yeah, that was the fight. That was the fight I grew up having.
No, I get it. I get it. It was. I'm originally from Wyoming, so it's like we had one.
That's even worse.
Track. Yeah, like they were like I had. Thankfully, in elementary school, I had 2 buddies, Clinton, Dustin, Dale Jarrett, Rusty Wallace, and I was an Earnhardt Jr. fan. So we had a good little group. So I could talk with them, but the rest of the school, they're like, these guys are weird. Like,
did you say Jarrett and Wallace and Jr.?
Yeah,
I thought you said Sterling. I said, wow, these 3 kids from Wyoming are all into the beer branded cars.
Absolutely,
So
it wouldn't surprise me.
They sound like some Wyoming natives if I ever heard of it.
Yeah. No, my mom's favorite driver was Sterling when he
Yeah.
was in the Coors Light car. So
Yeah, there you go.
and obviously we drink the hell out of that here. So anyway, speaking of that, Mr. Corey Day, nice little hoodie there. Hey,
Yeah.
Chase, when we had him on here, we didn't get the Step Brothers t-shirts with you and Chase. I forgot to do that. I need to do that. I need to go to High Limits page right now and get one because that is hilarious.
That is shophighlimitracing.com, and they were recently the presenting sponsor of the High Limit redraw roulette wheel, and they just had to do a restock of those because, much to my surprise, I'm not a fan of. You don't go to sprint car races for the announcer, right? You don't go. You don't go to see or hear Johnny Gibson. You don't go to hear or see Tony LaPorta or Chase Rodman or Chet, whether it's Johnny, who's incredible at what he does, whether it's Chet Christner or Brian Holbert or Pat Sullivan or Tony Bachhoven or Dylan. Well, I mean, there's so many, right? You don't go for them; you go and maybe enjoy them. So when the idea was originally brought up by Chase here in this office before the season started, I'm like, no, dude, that is not. Nobody wants a T-shirt with an announcer on it. Nobody wants a guy's catchphrase on it. That's stupid. But we kind of put our heads together, and Kendra Jacobs from High Limit was involved in it. And we kind of talked, and we were like, listen, it's not you or Chase saying, look at me, look at my face, look at how great I am. It's you and Chase together saying, ha, look at us. We're best friends, right? And so amazingly, somehow, to my surprise, the original 50 order that we did sold out. So more shirts are being made and are being loaded into the trailer as we speak to be ready for Eldora. So if you guys are into making poor financial decisions, then head over to shophighlimitracing.com and check out the merch because you will look pretty stupid in one of those T-shirts.
Hey, when Chase told us about it, I had no idea, and we pulled it up live on the screen, and it was amazing.
Yeah.
Stuff.
I think one thing to that point is when we have talked about this quite a bit, the difference with High Limit and a lot of other series, and what I think has kind of lost my interest with NASCAR over the years, is that High Limit has seen to do a really good job with access, and we talked about this with Chase. But for me, as a guy who's always in the pits, we do like the industry guys because we talk to a lot of drivers on here. But to see how the whole show runs and what makes it more than just because it's getting hard at any level just to sell race cars anymore. I mean, the High Limit obviously does a good job. The World of Outlaws, those kind of series that carry, your top elite guys and the biggest teams and all the money. But for guys that are in the pits, it does really make a difference to me when we go to a show because not only is that beneficial for the series, but even the drivers. If you get eyeballs on it, but and it's like you can hear from drivers and it's a lot of interesting and unique stories. But again, to kind of see what makes the world go round in this circus, it is compelling. And you guys obviously do a good job, and that's we have some questions about that, but a little bit of, they seem to have given you a little bit of free reign to not be so buttoned up. And that really makes a big difference because you're no longer just a talking head. It actually gets to show your personality. We knew before we even met you, you're the wild card. You could just tell, the behind the scenes, and it makes it fun. Like I actually catch myself watching all the way from hot laps through qualifying to where on a normal show, I just go watch the recap. Because
Oh yeah, so, I find myself laughing my ass off half the time at stuff that Tony says and the banter back and forth with him and Chase. I'm like, this is like rated R sprint car racing. This is great.
Well, I mean, Blair, something you said was, learning a little bit more about how I think you said like how the circus goes around or up and down the road, and like that's the thing, right? Like, and I talked about this on another podcast, or I don't know if it was a podcast, but just I was interviewed recently, and my big thing is relatability, right? And nobody can relate. I shouldn't say nobody, but like, okay, you guys are both in the sport. You're in the industry. I don't know off the top of my head what your like deep technical knowledge of a sprint car is, but
he drives one, so I hope.
Okay. So yours is pretty good, obviously. Then, but for the average person who is at the track, especially, because let's be honest, if you have flow, you're a fan of the sport. You're not just going out and getting flow for 150, 160 bucks a year because you got money to burn. But if you're at the track, you might be there because your husband, your wife, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your son, your daughter, their friends, whatever, dragged you there. And what my point is like you have no idea what the difference in 8 pounds versus 11 pounds in the right rear tire means. You don't know what raising the car 2 inches or 3 inches, or what this torsion bar versus that torsion bar, or what putting the wing forward or back. You don't know. And I'm going to be honest with you, most people don't care. So my whole shtick is, let's talk to people about stuff they want to talk about. And I could sit here and tell you guys all about the intricacies of doing live broadcasts and, the technical side of flow racing and what goes on in my ear when races are happening. But you'd probably rather know about what it's like driving up and down the road all night to get from one dirt track to the next, and having great times and not so great times with the coworkers you're jammed into cars and hotel rooms with, because you guys and everybody else watching can relate to driving all night and can relate to having a lot of fun with their coworkers and can relate to hating some of the stuff that goes on with their job. So, everybody wants to know a little bit about it, because you're looking for that thing you can connect to, right? You're looking for that thing. And there are those people that are deeply connected to the technical side. That might be you, Blair. But say Brandon's a guy who's like, listen, I don't know the difference between a dirt or a pavement sprint car. I just know that they're really fun to go watch. I enjoy them, and I want to know more about the people who do it, because I'm a person. Nobody here has ever connected with a race car on a mental level or an emotional level. They've connected with the driver. They've connected with the crew chief. They've connected with the tire guy, the car owner, the parents, the wife, the girlfriend, the son, the dog. So, and also to your point about everybody wants to know about how the circus goes up and down the road. We're in this amazing age of technology where stuff like this exists, where 50 years ago, name the NASCAR, name the IndyCar, name the sprint car driver. The world didn't have the accessibility to them like we do today, where you guys can hit me up on Facebook and go, hey, would you call into the show? Well, absolutely. And now all your viewers and your listeners know about me, know about Chase, know about my connection to Mark Neff. 50 years ago, you didn't know if Richard Petty liked steak or mashed potatoes or chicken or salad, but you now know everything about everybody because we have this accessibility. So it's a good thing. And if it helps the sport grow, then I'm all for it. And everybody likes to sit in the crowd and be able to elbow their buddy and say, oh, that guy down there interviewing the driver, did you know that he's from Colorado and he, got started in NASCAR because blah, 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 blah. And people just like to have that thing to talk about. So relatability, being funny, accessibility, like you said, but and as good of a job as I think we do at High Limit of that, absolutely. That's just dirt racing, right? Dirt racing is so accessible. Short track racing is so easy to get into as a fan. And I don't know if there was a question or if I answered it, but I just agree with everything you said, in the sense that this is a great sport to become immersed in, because there's so much. It's so easy to become like knee deep in this stuff, and that's a good thing, I think.
Yeah. Blair, I'll pass to you. If he answered, I think he did. I think he did a great job.
That nails it. I mean, that was kind of the feeling, but like I said, it is, and I do both, right? The technical side is important to me because I'm competing. And as you said, with the media and technology that we see now, we talked about how there's no race cars in Colorado. There's one other guy that races sprint cars with me. We're 360s. That's why we had to go 360 routes, because it's in our area. We could travel 6-7 hours in any direction, so the 410s aren't really accessible. But no. I had to learn how to work my mechanical fuel injection, a lot of it off Billy Dietrich's video from Pennsylvania. Or T-Mez has shown me a lot, or just even the thought process and the time that goes into it. So, I mean, I really am of the internet age, because I wasn't racing as a kid. I kind of was like, it took me till I was 24 years old to get in the car, and now I'm 36. So, whatever it was. But, that's really the only way it was possible for me, because I don't have the connections here. Of anybody who even knows. I have people come into our shop that don't even know what a sprint car is. Yeah. They've never seen it, never heard of it, so, and that's changing. It really has changed. And I think a lot of it is because of High Limit and Kyle Larson.
There you go. You nailed it right there. If you didn't say it, I was going to. I think Kyle has done single-handedly so much for the sport of dirt track, and that's sprint cars, it's late models, that's non-wing sprint cars, that's midgets, that's Silver Crown. When Kyle had to take that year off from NASCAR and the world stopped because of COVID, ironically, those two things lined up for better or for worse, depending on how you want to look at it. But when Kyle said, all right, I'm taking my NASCAR stardom, and I think so many people out there think, oh, he just went and found whatever he could to go race. No, he didn't. He went back home. He went
Yep.
to what he was raised doing, right? And so I don't mean to cut you off, but you nailed it. And I was hoping you'd say that because Kyle Larson has done so much for the sport of dirt track grassroots racing, because in a weird time in this world when nobody else had much to watch, he said, hey, grab Flow, grab Dirt Vision, and watch me go kick everybody's ass. And that's what he did. So
What, 65 wins that year? Some crazy statistic that year?
yeah,
It was insane.
I don't even know, but I mean, like, and this is not an official stance or statement. This is just my opinion. I was just talking to my girlfriend about it. You know, I don't know if you guys have seen all the seasons of, like, they've only done 2, but the 2 years of dirt.
Yep.
Like, I'm positive. And next time I see Michael Rigsby, general manager of Flow Racing, I'm going to ask him. I imagine that show, that docu-series Dirt, had to have been born from what Larson did in 2020, because if you go back and watch Dirt season 1, at least one of the promos, Rigsby voices it over, and it talks about, and I'm not going to try to quote it, but it essentially the voiceover, the narration for the promo, or maybe the opener to episode 1 of the first season is like, you know, Kyle Larson goes around the country and competes against these dirt full-timers. And let's essentially take a look into this world. Let's zoom in really tight and see what NASCAR superstar Kyle Larson is doing when he goes all over the country and races against what the average NASCAR fan thinks are these farmers and plumbers and 9-to-5ers, when in reality, Brad Sweet and Tyler Courtney and Justin Grant and David Gravel and the rest of them are not anything close to that. They're full-time professional race car drivers. So I know I ran from what you were saying, but yeah, Kyle just helped out the sport of sprint car racing and dirt track racing immensely when he came back and did what he did in 2020. So I think we all owe him certainly a debt of gratitude, because the sport's in a good spot today because of him.
Well, and I think backing up before Kyle Larson kind of did that, obviously RIP Mr. Brian Clausen, but that documentary going for 200, I mean, holy cow. And now, you know, post his death, we got the Indianapolis, you know, and all these sponsors from Driven to Save Lives and all these things kind of connecting Brian Clausen still in the sport. And he was kind of like that Kyle Larson before Kyle Larson was Kyle Larson.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I think that's a good way to look at it, because, like, you can't say that Brian wasn't doing big things for the sport of dirt track racing outside of dirt track racing, because he had 2 starts in the Indianapolis 500. I mean, there's not a more well-known race in the world than the Indy 500. And I know that they really leaned into his dirt racing background, and they blew that up because, again, remember, the only reason he's in those cars are because of his success with USAC and what he did to attract the Bird family's attention. But, you know, I don't know. Brian was that guy that was still on his way up, right? And got to Indy and spent one weekend or, you know, 1 month each year in, you know, being an IndyCar driver. And then, I don't mean to do it like this, but then went back to the other side of the world, which is his world, dirt racing. Kyle went and, you know, started in dirt, got all the way up to the top level of American motorsport, and now runs parallel, the two of them, and lets people see, yeah, I'm running the Chicago, you know, street course on Sunday, but, you know, a few days before that, I'm out doing PA Speed Week, you know, racing against guys that, you know, we'll never get to NASCAR for whatever reasons. But yeah, Brian did a lot. And like you said, Brandon, Brian, you know, after his passing, through Driven to Save Lives, through the Clausen family, through USAC and High Limits involvement with those brands, not brands, but those entities, his family, Driven to Save Lives, Brian almost seems to have done more as far as championing dirt racing almost after passing than he did while he was here. And that's not to say, I'm not trying to come off like he didn't.
Absolutely.
It's not that he didn't help grow the sport, but obviously when a guy loses his life and then, you know, has that story of organ donation to go along with it, that's going to bring attention to what he was doing at the time of passing. So yeah, Brian did a ton, and the whole Chasing 200 thing was, once it came out and once the world got to learn about it, that really, you know, it's funny is Brian Clausen was a guest on not Driven to Save Lives, Dinner with Racers. Are you guys familiar with the Dinner with Racers podcast?
I haven't heard of that one.
Highly, highly, highly recommended. It's Ryan Eversley, who is an IMSA sports car driver, and Sean Heckman, who I believe these days he's actually involved in the competition side, but at the time of recording a lot of this stuff, and the show is still going, they're still recording episodes, but it's Ryan and Sean, and when I knew Sean, he was just a PR guy in sports car racing, but they hooked up with Continental Tire and I think Honda or Acura, I can't remember, and the whole deal was they got in this, I think it was like an Acura MDX or something, and they went around the country and would do like 35 dinners in 33 days or 34 days or 37 days. And they would go talk to everybody in the sport of big time auto racing, drivers, crew chiefs, car owners, broadcasters, first respond, like, doctors that work in the sport. And they did one with Brian, maybe 6 months or something before he was killed. And Brian talks about the whole chasing 200 thing, and to these two sports car guys who are like, "Oh, I got a really busy summer. I'm racing 10 times this summer." You know what I mean? Yeah. They hear about Brian, and you should really go find the interview because he goes into depth and talks about. He explains to them the whole T-shirt industry in dirt track racing. He explains to them, kind of a little bit of the financials of what it's like to be a driver and how he makes his living. And Brian did a great job in that interview alone of spreading sprint car and dirt track lifestyle to a completely different audience, sports car and Indy car. And so to you guys, to anybody listening, I highly recommend go look up Brian Clausen's interview on Dinner with Racers. And it's from back before he passed, obviously. But I think, and I think they did one with Joey Saldana also, maybe. They do a few dirt guys. Tony is on there. He's got a 2-parter. But yeah, Brian's was really, really good. So he did a great job, just like Kyle does, of advancing the sport just by talking about it.
Yeah. We threw this question to Chase a couple weeks ago too, but who do you think you can go World of Outlaw or High Limit? Obviously you're tailored more specifically to High Limit and you're with those guys week in, week out. Who's the rising star in your eyes? And then we'll tell you who Chase said.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously, and I maybe I'm late to it because, or it's, somebody's already said it, or I don't know what I'm trying to say. Obviously, Corey Day, right? Like Corey is phenomenal. I know he's not having the time in pavement that he would like, or he probably expected to have, but that stuff's hard. Like dirt racing people and dirt racing fans are just as nose up in the air as everybody else in different sections of motorsport. Everybody in dirt track racing thinks their thing is the only hard thing out there with a steering wheel and an engine. It's not. And Corey's definitely an up and coming star, and I think he'll be very, prominent in the motorsports world for a very long time. You have so many young guys that are coming up, but the guys that are established in sprint car racing, I don't know. And I'm not trying to dodge the question, but I don't look at it in when I work with these guys, I don't look at them as like, who's going to leave here to go be great? Because to me, all of them are where they want to be. They're at the top level of Wing 410 sprint car racing. I know David Gravel has a relationship with Jeff Gordon, and there was a time there where I don't know if he did run any stock car stuff or they were trying to get him into some stock car stuff. But, I mean, yeah, you can't deny David's talent. Brad had his time in stock cars. He did the NASCAR thing for a little bit there. So, yeah, I mean, I'm just going to be lazy and say, man, like, Corey Day is someone that everybody should really, really pay attention to, whether you're in dirt, whether you're in pavement, because the guy just has immense amounts of natural talent, and he's absolutely going to be someone people are talking about for a long time.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I know Chase had said that the quickest chicken, Chase Randall, and then lo and behold, he wins 2-3 weeks after Chase Rodman said that, which was pretty cool. But someone that Blair's kind of introduced me to is Aaron Reitzel, and I knew nothing about him. And holy crap, the last couple of weeks, I'm like, this guy he's got balls. Like he just goes.
It's so fun. It's like, cause okay, I'm flipping through everybody in my head as you guys are asking me that. And I'm just like, okay, well, up and coming young, you didn't say young. I just immediately put young on it. And it's not like Aaron Reitzel's got, 1 foot in retirement by any means. He's not an old man. But I go, well, Aaron's got a wife and 2 kids, and he's been in sprint car racing for a long time. So, you flip past him. But I literally was thinking of Aaron as I was trying to, kind of stumble through that answer. I'm a massive Aaron Reitzel fan. When we got him, when High Limit got him, when High Limit got Chase Randall and Danny Sams and Cy Lynch and Dason Pursley to come over and make up those four guys I mentioned. Those last four guys I mentioned are obviously the rookie, Racer Dean Rookie of the Year class. And then for Reitzel, I dealt with him just a little bit the previous season when he came and he ran a few shows with us because his team RSR had Corey Eliason on the road. He comes out, Reitzel does, and he wins at Port Royal at a prelim night for the Tuscarora 50. And he gets out of the car and he's jacked up. He's excited. He tells everybody that the country should do themselves a favor and vote for Trump. And we're in Pennsylvania and people are booing and people are cheering. I heard a rumor that he had never had a better night at his t-shirt trailer than that following night. And so like I tell people, because Reitzel has a lot of hate. My first memory of Aaron Reitzel ever was because I did video work for the World of Outlaws for 2 years. I had announced for a very long time, and I was at USAC in 21. That opportunity kind of went away, and then I had to find work. So I did video work for the Outlaws for 2 years. And my first memory of Aaron Reitzel is being at the A-Main starters autograph session at the Knoxville Nationals in the barn where they hold the drivers meeting. And Aaron's sitting there with all the other guys that are locked in going into Saturday night. And he's sitting there. They have these tables that make like a big U. And fans come in and they the inside of that big letter U, and they get all the drivers' autographs and head out. Aaron is sitting there, right, waiting to sign these nice fans' autographs. And a woman comes in line, and she's wearing a clean white T-shirt that she had custom made that in big black bold letters said on the front of it, "Anybody but Reitzel." Ooh. And I'm just like, and that's fine. Like that's like, I didn't clutch my pearls at that. It's not like, oh my God, a dirt track fan doesn't like another dirt track racer. It was Aaron just being unshook, unfazed. He probably saw it and laughed and maybe like high-fived the lady. I don't know. I don't remember the actual interaction. I don't know if she went to his side of the autograph line or not. But people don't like Aaron Reitzel, and to that I always say you just don't know him. And that's the thing about all these guys, right? I understand if you don't like a guy because he wrecked your driver. He beat your driver a bunch of times. But fans of every sport, fans of every industry have this like this thought, this opinion that like, well, I know him because I see him on TV. You don't, you don't know him at all. You don't know him one bit. And Aaron Reitzel is a dad. He's a husband, and he's a nice guy. Yeah, he's feisty. Yeah, he's aggressive on track. But I love Reitzel. I love our crop of drivers at High Limit. Rico Abreu is somebody that if he deals with his stature and the challenges physically that he has to deal with. He deals with those. And I don't know. I don't want to sit here and say, well, if he didn't have that one thing going, he'd be racing on Sundays in Cup or IndyCar, because you don't know that. But he's a guy that certainly earns those opportunities that he gets with big partners, with Whiskey Myers and with Kubota, exactly, because he is a sponsor's dream. He's great at speaking. He represents the brand. Guys like Rico, guys like Reitzel, Tyler Courtney, guys that are good at driving the race car, but also representing the series and the brand. Those are guys that I wish people knew more about.
So I have a bone to pick with Rico, because 2 years ago when you guys went to the little Texas track, besides big track, I took my buddy, never been to a sprint car race before. Well, I'll take that back. Not like that. We're in the pits. We're taking pictures with everybody. I'm pointing them out. Hey, there's Kyle Larson. There's Casey Kane, all of them. And we get up. Rico was far left, like closest to where they came off the track, go through the tunnel and out. We finally get to Rico, and I waited, not in line. There wasn't a line because it's amazing at your guys' pits. And I finally get a picture with him, and I'm like, hell yeah. And then I look at it, and his damn eyes are closed. And so I'm like, well, that sucks. But we've been trying to get him on the show, but to try to get to him personally, I don't know how we're going to do that. But anyway.
It's so funny, Rico. Who I always see with, not always, but like I've seen a few photos is Larson, because just like Rico and just like Casey, the line at Kyle's trailer is just it's incredible, and especially when we go places where sprint cars and high limit are not typically at. When we went up to Wisconsin back in June, the line at Kyle's trailer before and after the night at Red Cedar was just, I mean, you would have thought they were giving away $100 bills. And so Kyle's got to stand there, and he's great, man. He stays as long as he possibly can. And you're just like, well, out of 500 or 600 pictures tonight, surely one's going to come out where he's like,
oh yeah,
eyes are closed. But Rico, don't worry, he'll retake that photo with you anytime. He tries his absolute best to take care of people who support him. So, and if you tell him that story, he'll joke or he'll laugh with you about that, because God knows how many pictures of those guys are out there with their eyes closed. But no,
yeah, I don't even know if I posted it. I was like, damn, Rico, like, dang, come on, man. But
Photoshop some sunglasses on him.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, good stuff. Well, go ahead, Blair.
Go ahead. No, just to kind of piggyback off that, kind of lost my train of thought here. But is there, two things. One, that I noticed when I was a fan of racing, kind of like you said about Reitzel, because I really have only been watching dirt for a few years. I mean, it was like I went to a dirt track, saw sprint cars in Colorado for the first time, went, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
And then ended up buying a mini sprint, going a couple years later, been in the sprint car now. And it was like, but on the backside of the stands as a fan, I noticed before I met a lot of guys that there's generally a big disconnect with audiences. So the guys I thought that were really cool on track and were fast and everything else, a lot of times when you get into the pits, and this was more of an asphalt thing, but they were not well liked. They were not well received. They weren't nice guys. And then some of the guys that didn't get any notoriety, they were the nicest dudes. And it is funny there. But so you obviously understand that. Being more of the pit reporter, being on track, do you develop a rapport with guys? Is there a good camaraderie? Are they willing to work with you? I mean, is that fun part of the job, or is it kind of like they just stay buttoned up? Because that's another thing with dirt. It doesn't seem as they're as worried, like the sponsors, maybe not huge corporations. They're more of your big farms, big trucking companies. I mean, big businesses, obviously. There's a lot of money. I think people don't understand that. But and then do you ever have any problems with them? I mean, do guys get pissed off at you? I mean, have you had that happen too?
Yeah, I mean, great questions, both of them. Really, really good questions. So to answer your first one, yeah, you do. That's the thing, is like, so I struggle a lot with what I do, because I very much wanted the booth job with High Limit. I've been a play-by-play announcer in racing for a very long time. I was USAC's national announcer in 2021. And I love calling racing, because it's the most mentally challenging thing I've ever been a part of. You're allowed to be extremely expressive, and that can bite you, because not everybody might like how you express yourself while calling a race. But you can be funny, you can be serious, you can be dramatic, you can do whatever, because you kind of have to, because
paint the picture.
Yeah, exactly. As exciting as sprint car racing is, you still do got to talk about it. And so some guys like to be just completely buttoned up and stats only. And some guys like me, I like to be fun. I like to be, kind of, I don't like the word silly, but I just like to be off the cuff a little bit when I'm describing a race. So I struggle a lot with not being in the booth, because I enjoy that. I like it. I think I'm good at it. But the massive upside to my job and being the guy down in the infield and being in the pits, Chase doesn't get the time, and I was reminded of this when I filled in for him at Butler back in early June. He had to miss 2 nights to go to his sister's wedding. I was reminded of how little time the booth announcer gets, because he has to be making his sponsors list. He has to be updating all the stats to rattle off during qualifying. He has all these, what I call hard line items, that the series announcer, Johnny Gibson, Brian Holbert, Pat Sullivan, Chase Rodman, name your series, right? And then pick that guy that calls it. Those guys have things they have to have. And so because those things have to happen, sponsor reads, just updated stats, track facts, general knowledge that they have to have, they don't get the time to walk through the pits and hang out with the guys and the crew members and the car owners and the families like I do. Sometimes I wish I had like those Google glasses, right? Where it's not some big obvious GoPro, but I wish that people could see what I get to see in the pits, because I am incredibly blessed to have this now relationship with all of our full-timers and their crews and their families and the people that support them and are in the pits. I can now today I'm very, very blessed to say I can walk in to any one of our full-timers trailers and I can talk and name 90% of the crew guys without having to look up or see who's talking to me. I know a lot of the drivers' wives and girlfriends. I know drivers' parents. I know drivers' friends, and then of course the drivers themselves, because I see them every single night. I walk through the pits and I try to talk with every single driver or somebody with the car that's racing with us every single night. It's not always possible. I don't always do it. You get hung up talking to a guy for 10 or 15 minutes and you realize, oh, I only got 20 more minutes to talk to 15 more cars. So yes, to answer your first question, I am incredibly fortunate. It's the best part of my job. I get to have what I think are very good personal relationships with all these guys. Yeah, there are guys that you're closer with than others. There's guys that have similar backgrounds or similar interests that I can sit and talk with. Whereas, yeah, Brad Sweet, he doesn't know what it's like to be a hunter and a fisherman and a guy that grew up on a different part of the world than he did. So Brad's older than me. Casey Kane's a little bit older than me. So those guys I don't sit and talk with for 45 minutes. Spencer Baston, Danny Sams, they hunt, they fish. Those are guys that I can sit and I just get to have such great conversations with. And that's part of my job, because then hopefully in the middle of the night, whether one of those guys wins, crashes, makes a great move, whatever, I can key into Chase and say, hey, I got something about this guy. And then that's where you hear those random little drop-ins. They're all great dudes. And then to your second question, your second part of that question, you ever have problems with them? Yes, absolutely. There are 50 plus races a year. No, so we were scheduled at like 60 races this year, and we're not going to get there with rainouts. You have countless times on the mic to say something wrong, and you do. I do. Chase does. It happens, and sometimes you just get something totally incorrect, which I've done. We all do. Sometimes it's not necessarily something incorrect, but it's just something that maybe they didn't want the world to know. Maybe they didn't like how you said it. Maybe they just didn't understand the timing of when you said it. And yeah, there are those moments where in the sport of dirt track and sprint car racing, I'm very fortunate. I came from pavement road course racing. I worked in the Road to Indy. I worked in IMSA, and I worked in an extremely sterile kind of racing where every driver has a PR rep and every team has a PR rep. And if you want the driver, you got to go through 2 PR people, the higher up you go. And you got to, if you want this, you need to schedule it. You need to request that. And it was just very, like, you understand it. You get, there's a lot of money and there's a lot of commitments and there's a lot of stuff pulling on these guys. So you're like, okay, I get it. They need these, most of the time it's a PR girl, it's a PR woman. But whether it's a guy, whether it's a girl, these guys need someone to be the barrier between them and every random dick in the pit area with a microphone and an iPhone saying, oh, I need an interview. But when I'm
podcast reaching out to them, that's why they got PR people.
Well, yeah, but so the point is like in our kind of racing that we're all involved in, it's much more pure. It is just much more down and dirty and simple. So where that is good and where that is bad is if you screw something up, a driver, most of the time a grown man, will walk right up to you and he will say, I didn't like what you just said, or I don't like how you said that. And it all depends on when it happens, how severe it was, what, how big your mistake, what you said was, because you'll have guys walk up the next day, the week after, the next race, whatever, and they'll just go, hey, can we talk? I didn't love what you said. And then you'll have some guys walk up to you, and I've had fingers put in my chest. That's
a bold move. That's a really bold move.
Well, yeah, I mean, in sprint car racing,
for sprint car drivers that are probably come up to your chest, maybe.
Yeah, not all of them. I mean, definitely not all of them. But yeah, I mean, I've had fingers in my chest. I've had the collar of my shirt grabbed, and I've had not very nice words said to me because of something. And then of course that the drivers seem to always handle it appropriately. Crew guys, and the farther you get away from the issue, right, is where it always gets sideways. The driver or the crew member that you say something about that they didn't like, 99 times out of 100, they will come up to you pretty calmly and they will just say, I didn't like what you said. Don't say it again, or why'd you say it? And they have a very adult discourse with you. But it's when you start to branch out, it's when you get to the family, it's when you get to the friends, And it's when you get to the people on the internet who don't know anything about what they're talking about, that's when you'll have just the wild interactions. That's when you'll have people come up to you that paid to get into the race. Like, we're all there because we're getting paid to be there. I'll have people who paid, who bought a ticket, who come up to you, and they'll just tell you off. And you're like, excuse me, sorry, what team are you with? What car are you with? But yeah, from the road to Indy and even go-karting. I mean, I won't name any names, but the worst interaction like this I've ever had, I got put flat on my back at after a go-kart race because a team owner didn't like some jokes I made about a scenario that I shouldn't have been joking about. I didn't know the whole story, but I had a team owner in a go-kart series come up to me after an event, and he saw me out of the corner of his eye. He took a hard 90 and he came up to me, and I had been warned that he wasn't happy with what I said, and I didn't know how unhappy. And I saw him and I said, hey, so-and-so, I heard, and he didn't stop. He didn't listen. He walked right up to me. He got right in my face. He told me I should effing kill you. And I'm like, what are we talking? He grabs me by the
brother.
Yeah, exactly. And he gets me like this, and he walks me backwards. We're actually in a casino, and he walks me backwards, and the whole time he's just telling me I should kill you. I should kill you. And he drives.
Brady Balderston's chiming in here. What race was that?
I'm definitely not. It was a race in Las Vegas, is all I will say. And Brady will be able to do the connecting the dots from there. But this guy drove me backwards into like a wall with like a counter, like kind of jutting out of the wall, like just a counter with ashtrays and probably somewhere you could go and take phone calls. And drove me into that wall, and I just lost my footing and I went down. And it was all because he didn't like some jokes I made that night at the banquet at the end of the season kart race. So yeah, people obviously take issue with stuff you say. I mean, it was very well documented. My first weekend with USAC, I did not do very well, and Robert Ballou went after me on Twitter, and that was weird because that weekend he wasn't even there racing. It was the midget portion of the Winter Dirt Games. He's at home watching, and he just made a bunch of tweets about what he thought about me as the announcer. And that wasn't exactly the scenario you asked about, Blair, where, somebody comes up to you, but same thing. I walked up to Robert and we had a discussion at Ocala the next week when he was there with the sprint cars, and it was all hashed out. And now we have a good relationship. We see each other in Indianapolis sometimes, and he's very fair and he's very friendly. So yeah, people, when you talk for a living and you're putting your words out microphone that goes out to a speaker where thousands of people can hear it, and then with Flow and Dirt Vision these days, everything's saved, everything, you can go back and watch it. It gives everybody plenty of opportunities to comb through what you said to find the one thing about it they didn't like. So yeah, those interactions, they happen. They don't happen that often, and you can mitigate those interactions from happening by being good at your job and making sure you're confident in what you're saying. And just, you try not to live down in the gutter and talk about stuff that doesn't need to be talked about. But yeah, stuff like that still goes on. So yeah, you'll probably know the next time it happens to me, because I'll come back on air after a night where that happened, and I'll be like, guys, just want to get out there and correct something I said last night. Blair Cooper actually is a wonderfully nice individual, and he is not a dirty driver. And everything I said, yeah, but yeah, that stuff happens. It thankfully doesn't happen a lot, but
sure,
yeah,
it has.
So makes sense.
So we were during the Chase Rodman. I think it was like the last maybe 5 minutes of that show. We tried to kind of get him to go into that circus on the road that we were talking about earlier, and maybe you'll open up. I hope. What are the 2 a.m. at Waffle House experiences like? Are you going to those? Are you going to the bars? Oh, perfect. Can you elaborate, since all the court cases are closed and we're good?
Well, like what I always tell people, and this won't be the scandalous, crazy answer you're looking for. What I always tell people is, like I said, I came from IMSA, I came from IndyCar, I came from sports car racing, where you're at the track at 7 a.m. And unless it's I did have to do the 24 hours of Daytona once a year. You do have to do the 12 hours of Sebring. But for the most part, in the IndyCar and the IMSA and the sports car world, you're at the track at 7 a.m. You're maybe on track at 8 or 9, and then you're off and you're done at the track by 5 or 6 p.m., right? So what happens, and what happened to me when I was doing Road to Indy TV and I was the PA announcer for IMSA, you get done with a long day at the track and you're back at the hotel at 6 p.m., 6:30, and you're looking around and going, man, I got some time to kill. This place has got a bar. Let's see if those two can mesh. And dirt racing is the exact opposite. So what I tell people is dirt track racing did more positive for my drinking than anything, that any therapy, any AA, anything could have ever. And I didn't have a drinking problem. I just liked to drink,
like
and
party.
I still like to drink. But in dirt track racing, as you guys are both aware, your night, the day is completely inverse, right? At the road course world, you're starting at 7 and you're leaving at 5. Well, at the sprint car races, you're getting to the track for drivers' meetings at 5:30. You're not getting to the track, but you're at the track for a drivers' meeting at 5:30. You're on track at 6. And if you're really lucky and you're running with Kubota High Limit Racing, where we prioritize a fast and family friendly show, you might get done at 10 p.m. You might have a long night and you get done at 10:30, 11, 11:30 if there's a hiccup, a lot of red flags, something like that. But then you might have a 3-hour drive to the next track. You might have a 30-minute drive to the hotel. You might have a 15-minute drive to the hotel, right? But your days at the sprint car race are so long, your nights get done so late. Unless you truly do have a drinking problem, you're not looking to crack 6 beers. You're not looking to take pulls of whiskey, because if you're like me and the guys I work with, you're just wanting to go to bed because you're wanting to go to bed and you're wanting to get something to eat before, and not always in that order. But so that's like the serious side of it. But yeah, like, dude, we get done at 10:30 at night. You tear down. We're a small staff at High Limit. So Chase and I are out there cutting down banners, rolling up things, and load signs onto the truck to take them back to the 18-wheeler. And then we might have a 2 or 3 or a 4-hour drive overnight to get to the track. So yeah, we load up. It's Chase, myself, our social media manager, Brian Walker, and then our timing and scoring official, Anthony Carini. And we all traveled together in one rental car because we all roomed together. Walker and I share a room. Carini and Rodman share a room, and it's been that way since we were all at the Outlaws together. We're all very similar in age. I'm 32. Chase is 31, I think. Brian's 26, 27. Anthony's 30, 31. So we're all very close in age. We all travel together. They call our car the kids' car. And yeah, I mean, it's driving at 2:30 in the morning and finding one Taco Bell 100 miles away that's open, and it's being told, oh, we can't do multiple orders, and it's all of us having to divvy up and find out who's going to pay who back for the Taco Bell, the McDonald's. It's walking into a Quick Trip and being pissed off because there's no taquitos on the rollers at 2:45 in the morning, and you're like, I thought this was a self-respecting establishment. So yeah, I mean, if you're lucky and you do pass a big, really nice truck stop like a Buc-ee's, like a Love's, like a Pilot, well, then it's a little bit different. But yeah, I mean, it's blasting Pink Pony Club on the car's stereo system so that you can stay awake. It's sometimes
that's Blair's wife in that comment there. Car wash, McDonald's, shower in bed.
Well, thankfully none of us. Well, some of us as individuals might need a car wash after the night is over, but we get to motor past those guys. You'll never know who you're going to get and what stories they'll have. But I think I've talked to, maybe it was Tanner Thorson's crew. I can't remember exactly who it was. It might have been Noah Gass's family team earlier in my outlaw days. But those guys are driving an 18-wheeler down the road, and they'll find a McDonald's. Well, the inside's closed, and you can't drive an 18-wheeler through the drive-through. Nope. So they'll park, and I've seen this.
Get in the sprint car.
I swear Thorson's team has done this. They will park the 18-wheeler. They will roll the sprint car out of the back. Then they will get in the mule. They will back the mule up. Everybody will get in the mule, and that will drive them through the McDonald's drive-through, the Taco Bell drive-through, because some places are so weird. You can't walk through the drive-through, and you can't drive an 18-wheeler. You can't hear them over the sprint car, so guys will roll the mule, the little Polaris mules through the drive-through. But yeah, no, I mean, our nights are crazy, but within reason. It's our big thing in our car is crazy. Brian Walker and I, to an extent, are pretty big fans of just getting the drive done with. So when we got done at the Weikert in Port Royal back in Memorial Day weekend. We'd been on the road for like 4 weeks or something at that point, and it's 8.5 hours from Port Royal to Indianapolis. Ryan and I just got in the car, and there wasn't a lot of talking, and it was just go. And we will get to the track at 11 a.m. to help start hanging banners. We'll get done at 10. We'll pack up at midnight. We'll be on the road at 1, and we won't stop driving until the GPS says we're there. So those are pretty wild. Some nights it gets a little hairy because you wake up in the passenger seat and you look over and you're like, "Were you sleeping?" And the driver's like, "No, were you?" And yeah, so no, our wild stories just come really from hotel front lobby attendants who didn't know you were coming, even though you'd had the reservation for a month, and Taco Bell employees looking at you like you're crazy when what they think is one guy orders $63 at Taco Bell at 3 in the morning.
That's awesome. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Oh man. So I wanted to talk a little bit. I know we're kind of over time what we originally told you, but as long as you're good, we're good.
I ramble. You guys ask a question and I go for 8 minutes.
Hey,
no problem.
It's how we prefer it. So like with Florence on the doubleheader this weekend, we actually unrolled a dirt betting. We called it Dirt Dollars on this show to talk about the installation of betting on High Limit, World of Outlaw, etc. So maybe you have the insight, but we have struggled with that. So Blair and I and his wife Tara gets in on it. So we'll make our bet live on the show every week. However, the NXT, I'm a DraftKings guy. They're not giving the odds till like the day of, which obviously doesn't line up with our podcast schedule. Is there a reason for that, or are they just kind of getting the hiccups worked out?
Yeah, the NXT thing's been really interesting this year, and I'm not involved in any of the odds setting, but Brian Walker and Anthony Carini are very involved in that. They have a deep statistical knowledge of the sport, and they know the numbers really, really well. And this is kind of what I've picked up, and those two might correct me when they hear this. And I'll do some digging in the coming weeks to try to just message you guys an answer and get a little bit more insight on this. The NXT thing, like, sprint car racing to them is so new, whether it's the Outlaws, whether it's High Limit. It's not like Major League Baseball. It's not like the National Football League, where though you can look at some teams and know, all right, well, we kind of know who the favorite is here, and our deal is so unique. And then think about it. There's no sport with as many variables in it as our sport. With
the driver entry list is the biggest one. You don't know who's going to be there.
And I think that is probably one of, if not the biggest thing, where it's like, okay, this guy, Reitzel, Brad Sweet, the top two in our championship standings, they might be the two favorites, and one of those two will be the favorite. But it's like, what if we're going to somewhere where there's a local hot shoe, and if once he's on the entry list, that changes things. And I don't know if NXT. I think, again, do not quote me on this, but I believe from what I've heard in the rental car driving from track to track, I believe NXT sends High Limit a like preview of the odds, and then it's kind of like, hey, just so you know, this is what we're going to do, but also like if there's a glaring mistake on this, give us a heads up. But this is probably what we're going to do. And I know there have been several instances where like Carini and Walker and Chase, I don't have the 30 years in dirt track racing like some of those dudes do, so I can't look at the entry list and go like, oh my god, that guy's way overvalued, or that guy's way undervalued. But yeah, they might. Like, I remember at the beginning of the year, the NXT people saw that Ty Gibbs, NASCAR driver, is on the entry list for Vegas, and they put him like in the top 5 of the favorites, and it's like they're obviously overvaluing the NASCAR factor, right? And so it's a combination of what you just said, which is like, well, we don't know who's going to be there, so we don't know who might be the guy to beat. But it's also NXT's kind of just lack of knowledge, newness to the sport of sprint car racing, where they see NASCAR driver Kyle Busch, NASCAR driver Ty Gibbs on the entry list. Well, and Christopher's different because he is a threat to win, whether his name's associated with NASCAR or not. His sprint car just base is so strong. But yeah, the NXT people, I think they just are like, and we also have kind of a working theory that maybe NXT is just making everything a little like misvalued and kind of soft to sort of like, maybe they're roping people in. And if you see Kyle Larson at like some crazy undervalue, you're like, oh, you're hammering that, and you're going to keep coming back. Well, soon they're going to adjust the odds, and you'll have those people who don't catch the subtle changes of the years. So I don't know. I think it's a little bit of all that. I think it's them going, well, we don't know who's going to be there. We don't know who the guy to beat might be. It's them not knowing the sport very well and saying, oh, NASCAR driver. Well, they got to be a favorite. No, they don't. This guy's never raced on dirt a day in his life. He just happens to be a NASCAR driver who's trying this. And then it's a little bit of like, well, we're figuring out the market. We'll lose a little bit. And they're not even the ones losing; they're just the odds makers. So, it's definitely there's some laughable reactions in our car sometimes when they get the NXT email the night before a big sprint car race, and it's like, they've got who at minus 150, or they've got who at plus 8,000. So it's a living, breathing organism right now that everyone's trying to figure out.
Yeah, and I'm sure you guys will get it right. And immediately when Blair and I started this season back in April, I was like, we have to do this because I think it's good camaraderie. We get the fan engagement obviously going. Blair and I can hopefully make a couple bucks with my little knowledge and his lot of knowledge. And he's actually, I think, leading Tara and I in picks. But I think maybe even this year they'll get it right. And next year we will see a increase in accuracy and timeliness. The timeliness thing is more for me just because of the show, right? Like we want to be able to like, hey, these are the actual odds. Rico's at 500. I'm going to take Thorson as a long shot, whatever it is. But so we just been having fun with it and just picking who we think's going to win and just, not actually.
Well, and think about it like this. I don't have a problem with gambling. I think
just
it's
drinking.
Great. Yeah. I don't have a problem with my drinking. Everybody else seems to.
Flip it.
I don't have a problem with gambling. I think it's if you do it responsibly, right, it's cool. And I'm a massive baseball fan, and it's like sometimes just to have even more reason to care, I'll go on FanDuel and slap a bunch of really big time $1, $2 bets down on games just on the money line, because then it gives me a reason at the end of the night to go, did I make any money? Who won those games? How did I do? Did I pick
more
right?
in tune. Yep.
And so, it's like the NXT thing. Some people are conflicted on it. And believe me, I certainly understand the original arguments that came out about it, because dirt racing still at the level of high limit and the outlaws, sprint car racing is still a very small world and a very small industry. And there were plenty of people who brought up, well, if a guy finds out that he's the favorite underdog, and he can align with some guy who's going to really, stack the book against him winning, and he takes a dive. Well, then,
I don't think they're doing that, but that's
I don't either. I don't either.
No way.
I don't either. But like, you also have to just give you have to give that nod to people saying, sometimes the optics aren't what you dream them to be. But yeah, man, it's just what you guys are doing with yours and what NXT is doing. It's like, man, if it gives people one more reason to care about it, and one more reason to check the highlights at the end of the night to see how their guy that they put some money on did, well then, hey, that's a good thing.
Yeah, and that's spot on. That's what we're trying to do with our guests and viewers is, hey, these are the actual odds. This is what the three of us are taking. What say you? Let's get some comments rolling in, stuff like that. And I think it just helps the sport and the industry as a whole. So I just wanted to touch on that. And I mean, we'll continue to do. I mean, after you hop off here, that's exactly what segment we're going into to talk about Florence. But yeah, so.
Yeah, and it's like good. It's good for you guys because, like, again, apologies. I don't know what the fan base, what the audience size is here for the show, but like, you're obviously talking to people who, just like all of us, didn't grow up seeing winged 410 national sprint car racing because of the part of the country we're from. So it's like, okay, for your guys' thing, I'm a fan of what you do because, okay, if I'm 15-year-old Tony LaPorta growing up, but in 2025, and I find this show, well, all right, why are Blair and Brandon picking this guy? Why they put some money on him? I'm going to learn about him because I'm sure there's a discourse where you guys go, oh, I picked this guy. I didn't pick this guy. Here's why I picked him. Here's why I didn't pick him. Or Brandon, you're crazy for picking him. This is who I went. And so it's like, it's just one more reason to talk and learn about the sport and why guys like yourselves who are in it a little bit deeper than the average audience member probably are. It's like, okay, that's why these guys on the show picked them. I like that logic. I like that understanding of it. I'm going to track and follow that. And now I'm going to root for this guy, or I'm going to watch more about this guy. And it's just more inroads, right, to understanding the sport and learning about it. So I like that you guys do stuff like that. That's a good thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, and we told Chase, and I don't know if you'll agree to this, but I'm hoping that maybe when does your season end? Like early October, without any rain mix up.
Second week of October, I believe, is when we wrap up in Texas.
Okay. Well, we proposed to him that we would have him and you on the show again, double, and we'll talk. Well, maybe we'll talk about who you guys think for the championship, something like that. Get that going, and I don't know if you guys are allowed to not bet, but just pick verbally. But yeah,
I mean, we're allowed. We're definitely encouraged, or not encouraged, but we're allowed to make predictions and stuff like that. And
because Chase has the deal during qualifying, the
Rodman's risk.
Or risk,
Rodman's risk, and it's just funny, and like I'll tell you guys a side story about that whole deal. We sat again. I'm in my office, so High Limit has a very small shop in Brownsburg, and I'm in my office within that shop right now. And Chase came up. He lives just one state over in like north central Ohio. I'm here in Indianapolis, and he came over for a few nights before the season started because we're teammates. We do this together. We seem to have gotten a good review from our first year. Let's continue to build on that. So he came up here and stayed for a night. It was really great. And we sat here in this office and we talked about that. I know I just got done saying, I don't have a problem with gambling. I don't mind it. I don't. Chase is like Chase loves gambling. He loves going to the casino. He loves sports books online. That's his jam. I don't know why. It's not like I have a moral issue with it. I don't look down on it. My idea of a great weekend, my idea of a great getaway is not going and sitting in a casino with cigarette smoke and booze getting passed by me at 9 a.m. That's just not that's not my idea of a great time. If I'm going to drink at 9 a.m., it's going to be like outside. But we talked about it, and when NXT became a partner with High Limit, we were kind of told, hey, you guys need to be able to talk about this. Well, I told Chase I'm not a fan of the pit reporter, the guy that walks down in the infield where all the guys with torsion bars and wheel wrenches can come up behind me because they didn't like that on the broadcast. I picked them to finish worse than 9.5. Right. Chase, I joked with him. I said, you're up in the booth. You're safe. Yeah. I'm down there in the work area where if I have 4 or 5 weeks in a row of saying Brent Marks isn't going to do well, then, here comes Heath Moyle.
Bossy's going to get you.
Yeah, exactly. And I just, and that's obviously a joke. But the NXT thing has been mostly, I think, a positive. I don't like to get the business of in the middle of the season. We did some picks at the beginning of the year on the High Limit Room show. Sure. But other than that, I just, you don't want your wife, your girlfriend to walk in the kitchen and be like, I predict you're going to have a bad week. And you're just like, what? I feel that way too, but don't say it to me. And I've had one of those, like you asked about earlier, Blair, has someone ever come up to me, confronted me? Yeah. Years ago, I hosted a show for Road to Indy Racing, and they asked me to do a good, a bad, and an ugly to the halfway point in the season for who's had a good year. I mean, who's had a good season, who's had a bad season, who's had an ugly season. I was like 22 at the time, 21 maybe. I might not have even been that old. And I just had no problem with being like, well, this guy's had a good season so far. This guy's had a bad one. This guy's had an ugly one. And I'll never forget it. That driver who I said had an ugly season, man, he came right up to me at Mid-Ohio, and he was just like, how can you say that? Like, I'm spending money. My sponsors are supporting me. And for you to say that I've had an ugly season. And I learned that it is not always Chase, mine, Johnny Gibson's, Brian Holbert's, Pat. It's not always our job to define someone's year. It's just night or race or lap. It's just our job to describe it. And then you can define it if you want, but I'm willing to bet that if you call that driver, tweet that driver, post about that driver, they might see it. And if they disagree with your opinion, just like Chase and I, they will let you know. So, it's just the predictions are great. I don't mind doing them every once in a while, but we live with these guys and they listen to it, and they don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear that. Oh, well, why would you pick him? That's a sorry bet. Cause what do we know that right. is the hard, fast truth. And B, just it's tough sometimes to get that position of telling guys, hey, you're probably not the bet I'm taking this week. So that's why, if you've ever wondered, that's why there's Rodman's Risk and there's not a TLP betting segment, just because I don't want anybody sneaking up behind me with a
No,
wheel
that
and deck.
makes sense. Absolutely. Yeah, that's cool. But no,
Yeah.
that makes total sense. I mean, I never am offended by anything. So if it was me, I wouldn't care. But I know guys have egos about it too. You run into, especially these race car guys, a lot of them, they're a little bit
Well, and
temperamental with some things.
it's like okay, and I'm not trying to paint any of it. I'm not trying to paint any of our guys like wusses. They're not going to be
No,
like,
of course.
they're not like, they're not going to cry to me and go, Tony, you didn't pick me. But okay, I just got done telling you about how good of a relationship I have with all these guys, and it's tough to expect to go up to just pulling a name out of Tyler Courtney. If I say, oh man, Tyler Courtney is going to finish worse than 9.5, or he's not the guy I'd pick for tonight, and if I say that a few times, well, then think about it. If okay, swap Tyler Courtney out for Blair Cooper, and if I say that enough times, what's going to make Blair Cooper or Blair Cooper's crew chief want to talk to me when I come up at the start of the next race night and go, hey, Blair, what's going on? Like, how's the car? What do you think about the track? What'd you do last week? Tell me about something. Well, eventually you're going to go, well, hey, man, like, you never have much nice to say about me anyway. Why are you going to start now? So, yeah, I don't know. I don't mind making predictions every once in a while, but it's just like, man, like I'm not a talent scout. I can't tell you who's going to be in NASCAR or IndyCar or this or that in the next 10 years. I don't know who our champion's going to be next year. I don't know who our champion's going to be right now. It's a
it's tough.
It's a 9-point difference. So I just tell that to people all the time. It's like none of us have crystal balls. Chase, Brian, Johnny, none of us can tell you, who would have predicted Brad Sweet leaves the Outlaws, Gravel goes on this historical run, and you've got sprint car racing the way that it looks today 3 years ago. Nobody could have guessed that. So if you guys do something like that, I'm certainly happy to be back a part of it. If Chase is as well, it's just going to turn into him and I shitting on each other. So I'm happy to do that anytime. I'll go toe to toe with him. That's always fun.
Hell yeah, that'd be great. Well, we wanted to. We've had a lot of comments tonight. I did want to spotlight a couple, and I think Blair had one more question for you at the end here. But where are we at? BJ Sawyer, local driver here. LaPorta, huge fans. The five of us talked to you in Texas. I said there's the Colorado Eagles fan. Then you ended up finding out you went to Mesa when Doug did. We had a blast out there.
Yeah, that's cool. I remember those guys. That was crazy. Texas in the spring this year, I met probably 4 or 5 people from Colorado, and I remember those guys. And a couple, and a husband and a wife came up to me, and they happened to know the owner. I don't know how involved he is anymore. The owner or the brother of the owner of Grand Junction Motor Speedway, the go-kart track I spent a ton of time at as a kid. And they were there, and they called Darren, the guy, his family owned the track, and I must have met 4 or 5 people from Colorado out at Fort Worth. But I remember those guys. That's awesome. That's cool that they are watching. That's cool. I appreciate them tuning in.
Next time I go to another high limit show, I'll be sure and find you, because I didn't see you at the first Fort Worth that I was there, but I don't know where
this year,
but the year before.
Oh, copy that. Yeah, that was the beginning of my time with high limit. I was running around trying to put out fires with hay bales, so I wouldn't have known you. I wouldn't have known you if you came up and talked to me. So for sure,
no, it's all good. Yeah, and then another. He's actually from Missouri, Tauren. It was cool chatting with you, Tony, at Lucas Oil. You and Chase are killing it.
Yeah, Chase and I. It's so funny. Like, people come up and give us all these rave reviews, and oh man, you and Chase are so funny, and you guys are just great. And then we go and we lean into it with the t-shirt. But I'll tell you guys the same thing I've told other folks that have asked other shows. Chase and I had really not much of a relationship at all before East Bay last year. I knew Chase when I was at USAC, because at Eldora for the Let's Race 2 in May, the Flow USAC production trailer and the Dirt Vision production trailer parked side by side with each other. And that was the year I was announcing for USAC. It was Chase's first year pit reporting for the Outlaws. We met each other. We shook hands, and I was like, that's Chase. I know who he is. Great, whatever. And then I come over to the Outlaws for the 2 years of doing video work. But it's not like we hung out. I mean, I could count on less than this many fingers the amount of nights that Chase and I hung out and spent time together. And those were only the nights that we rained out, and we happened to be staying near each other's hotels. And it was always, again, that core group of guys: Brian Walker, Anthony Carini, Chase Rodman, myself, Jake Ingram, who was signage at the Outlaws and is now signage for High Limit, and a few other guys. we were all similarly aged. We ran around together, but when we got to High Limit together, I wasn't exactly like, Chase and I didn't show up to High Limit with 10 years of friendship.
Sure.
Like some people think when they hear us on the broadcast. Chase and I we're just close in age guys. We have fairly different backgrounds. We both grew up, in pretty different ways and interested in different things. But I'm sure he talked about, he is like me in the fact that he did grow up going to pavement short track racing.
Mm-hmm.
His dad raced pavement stock cars. And other than that, we don't really have any similarities. It was just a deal where when they turned on the mics at East Bay, nobody ever sat us down, and we never sat down ourselves and were like, well, we should say this. And when you do that, I'll do this. And then if you do this, I'll go here. And if you say that, I'll laugh, and you should laugh. And no, there was never any planning. There was never.
That's what Blair and I do when we say a joke. I cue the button and make him laugh.
Yeah. Well, you guys probably write all this down before the show and say, okay, when Tony talks for 11 minutes about this, you'll say this, and then I'll do that. No,
right.
Chase and I are very different dudes. I will say that, but I'm very great.
Tell.
Yeah, and I mean, for lots.
That's what makes it.
But how you guys have gelled in a year and a half is phenomenal.
Yeah, we are, and it is not always super fun and super easy and super nice. We have had borderline shouting matches, and we have had those moments on the road, in the rental car, in the hotel, unloading stuff at 11 a.m. in 95 degrees. We have had those moments where it's like, wow, there is no way they're going to get this cleaned up and cleared up in time to go on air and joke with each other, but we do, or we fake it. And it's I'm very fortunate that Chase and I are in the positions we're in. We have both talked and joked. He did what I'm doing now, and he's doing what I used to do. And we both have kind of had to swallow that tough pill. Sure. It's probably not that tough of a pill for Chase as well, because he's up in the booth. He's where he wants to be. Last year, I really struggled with being in the pits, but we have both kind of admitted to ourselves and then to each other, you're probably doing the job I used to do a little bit better than I used to do. And I've said the same thing to him. You're probably doing the job that I used to do a little bit. So I pit report a lot differently than Chase does. He calls a race a lot differently than I do. And we both have just had a great time working together. And for all the frustration and all the arguing and all the back and forth, I don't know if either one of us would be as in a good of a spot as we are if it weren't for working with the other one.
Sure. Yeah. And I got two more for you, but wanted to spotlight Tara, Blair's wife's comment. So Blair and I, little background on this media and the podcast, it's 5 years long, but we started Asphalt, and Blair, this is a year and a half into his, and kind of same thing. Like we see each other maybe 3-4 times a year, just with, living, and you just get comfortable with someone, I think is what you were speaking to with Chase.
Totally.
Well, and literally all I did was Tony was talk shit in the comments when they had an Asphalt, because I knew all the Asphalt guys from racing with them. And I was like, who started this podcast? So I started watching, and I just blasted him for about an hour and a half. And then finally he's like, hey, I'm going to start doing some dirt. We're going to split the show off into 2 shows. And I was like, yeah, that'll be cool. I'm obviously getting deep into the sprint car stuff and got a couple years under my belt. We're on our 3rd year in the sprint car. But yeah, it's funny. But that obviously with you guys having arguments and stuff just shows that you obviously both care. Because if you didn't give a shit, what's there to fight about?
Yeah.
That makes a better product.
Yeah, I agree. And I appreciate that point of view. And I would like to say that every single argument we have is about the quality of the show. And I mean, the vast majority of them are. I come at this with 15 years in broadcast. I've been announcing since I was in high school at Windsor, and I've done a ton of stuff. And that's not trying to brag. I've just been very blessed with a voice, with opportunities, and mostly really good people who have thrown me ropes and gotten me to the next level. I have done some really cool stuff, and Chase is now doing that really cool stuff. And so sometimes we don't see eye to eye on the way certain things should be done or just particular podcaster things. But I agree with you, and I appreciate that input because, we both care a lot about it. We both want it to be really good. We just go about it very different ways, and that does lead to some tense times. But we always get it figured out. He called me today just randomly on the phone to give me a heads up about something we were going to talk about on our high limit room today. And it's like, that's really appreciated because he has the ability to spring something on me during this recording and make me look kind of stupid. But instead he calls me and hey, watch this replay of this race. We're going to talk about this. And then also we're going to do this. And it's like, man, that helps all of us out look really good. Mm-hmm. So Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, two more for you real quick before I know Blair had a very important question to ask you at the end of this.
Well, I was going to spring something on him, so
Well,
go
that's
ahead.
what I'm saying. So Mark Brimkamp,
kidding.
a former flagman at CNS, wants to know, did you follow Sammy Swindell racing the pavement sprint cars this weekend?
I did not. I'll be honest with you, I didn't even know that was this week, and I knew he had a deal to go out there and be a part of that. But no, I'll selfishly admit that I took the 4th of July weekend, and it's one of our rare weekends we aren't on the road. And some friends, some family have come up to visit, and I've been about as removed from racing and everything as possible. So no, I don't know how it went or anything about it.
I similarly to what you did this weekend, Tony, other than creating this episode at the in-laws cabin in Crested Butte, all I did this weekend was fly fish, drink a lot of whiskey, and shoot a lot of guns. So I was just my disconnect of racing. It was
Man,
great.
that sounds like I'm pretty pissed there was no invite. That sounds like it.
Next time, Labor Day weekend, mark your calendar, August 30th. You're invited.
Thank you. We will probably be flying home from Skagit to get ready to go to Pennsylvania.
Well, they have an airport nearby, so you can just
yeah. We'll just do a quick 24-hour layover and then jump back over to the East. But no,
Perfect.
that sounds badass. I'm with you. That's a good way to spend the weekend.
Absolutely. And then we had one more from your old racing buddy, Mr. Brady Balderson, also alumni. Do you ever miss the go-kart days? And you better answer this correctly because I'm an outlaw kart driver, so no pressure.
Yeah, it's funny. Brady and I grew up, doing the sit-up sprint style road course pavement karting, which again, it was just so funny, right? Like I get started in racing as a NASCAR fan, and I learned about Tony Stewart and all these guys racing dirt. Some of them were lay down, but a lot of them were still just like dirt oval karting, sit up, lay down. It didn't really. I don't know if it mattered at that point, but like I get into pavement road courses in Colorado, and I'm just like, it doesn't matter. I'll still get to Daytona. And so I had a
You're close.
Yeah. Well, I joke, but it's like I've announced at the Daytona International Speedway, and I've been I've been the PA voice at the Rolex 24 at Daytona. I've been they call the voice of God, where when they turn off everything and the only thing going over the PA system and it's silent for the introduction of the colors and the national anthem and the prayer, like that's me introducing those things to the crowd at Daytona. So that is crazy when I can stand on pit road at Daytona with a microphone and realize like, wow, I watched this race on TV and I watched the 500. So, but yeah, to answer Brady's question, I miss karting a lot. I'm still involved a little bit. When High Limit hired me in 24, I was brought on as a contractor. So I only made money when we raced, and it was for not that much money. And I was leaving the Outlaws, where I was a salaried, twice a month, paid with benefits employee. So when I left the Outlaws at the end of 23 to go High Limit in 24, I needed to make some money because I knew we were going to have rainouts and I needed to have something to pay rent and live on. And I also when I left the Outlaws, I quit getting a paycheck till High Limit picked up. So I very fortunately fell in with Rock Cup USA. They're a pavement road course sit-up sprint style karting series. And I called all of their races at their Florida Winter Tour, January, February, March, one weekend, a different track each. I think we did 2 tracks January and February, or 1 track January, the same track February, and then a different track March. But and then they ran their big finale in the parking lot of the Rio Hotel in Las Vegas. And so in 24, I still called a fair bit of karting, and it's weird. And I don't know what Brady's involvement in karting is still to this day, but maybe he'll understand this.
Late model guy now.
That's cool. So I say this with a lot of love for the sport, but like good for him, because karting is not, and everything's like this, right? Everything is not what it used to be. But Brady and I came into karting later than, like, Brady and his family were already really established in it. He'll remember the days of the CSC, the Colorado Sprint, or there was Colorado Sprint or Colorado State Championship, where, they were pulling 200 or 300 entries to a kart race in, they'd do like 2 races in Dacono, 2 races in Centennial, maybe 1 race over in Grand Junction, a race at Steamboat, or a race in Greeley, a parking lot race, and a race or 2 at Bandimere, the action karting right underneath the Bandimere drag strip. And club races would have 150 entries for just a championship at that track. And so these days, it is nothing like that anywhere in the country. And karting is so it is so monetized. And I go to these big national karting races these days, and there is hardly such a thing as a privateer anymore. Nobody hardly shows up with their go-kart in their trailer, in their pickup truck, and it's just him and dad.
Drivers. Yep.
Yeah, and no, what's worse, it's not even a factory driver anymore. It's all pay to play. It's all pay to be in the factory setup. It's it's Brandon Hall owns this dealership for this chassis. Okay, I buy that chassis from Brandon, and then he goes to the big national touring races with a 53 footer, and he pulls a 24 foot awning off that thing, and I pay $2,000 a weekend to park my go-kart underneath that tent, and then that's not my entry fee, that's not my damage, that's not my hotel room, that's not my pit passes, that's nothing. That's like $1,500, $2,000 to be under the trailer. And yeah, I go to go-kart races today, and I see a very different world than it used to be when we were growing up doing it at IMI and the track at Centennial.
That's where I got my start, actually, on the dirt track at IMI in 2019.
Yeah, I mean, that place, I grew up there, and it had a big part in raising me, going out there and doing the rental carts for $60, got you a 20-lap run. And man, karting is still awesome because it's this really just driver-centered type of racing. There's no strategy, there's no yellow flags, there's no games. It's just who can drive the thing the best. But it is certainly not like it was when Brady and I were growing up doing it, unfortunately.
Yeah. And I think we could have a whole episode on how everything's changed. But yeah, I think that was spot on. All right, Blair. Well, I appreciate Tony. Yeah, no, I appreciate Tony staying on. This has been awesome.
Yeah, we won't keep you much longer, but I just had a couple things to wrap up. Like I said, I was going to spring a question on you, but because we asked Chase, and you said earlier in the show you have a girlfriend, but obviously you've heard of what pit lizards are. Yeah. So are there any microphone? We call them mic lickers, but we had to come up with a different name. That was a little bit.
Chase didn't appreciate that one. He deflected that very quickly.
We didn't know if it was. I decided a mic muffler. Are there any before the girlfriend? Were you getting attention like that in the pits or walking around at night to say, "Hey, I like the way you talk"? Or
he's got the voice of Jesus and Fergie,
the voice of God. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I always joked with my parents. I said, if this announcing thing doesn't go well, I'll probably just end up being one of those phone sex hotline operators. And what really it's funny, my girlfriend today, like, I'm talking to you guys right now through a very nice microphone that I spent quite a bit of money on because I do voiceover work. But what she thinks I should use this microphone for is being a audiobook reader for she likes to call them spicy novels.
Yes.
The
50 Shades of Grey. That'd be good.
Yeah, she reads some stuff that I think makes that stuff look tame. And she'll give me a page and she'll be like, "Here, read this." And I get 3 words into it and I just go, "Nope." And I joked for a little bit there that I would someday get into there's an industry that not a lot of people know about, but it's narration for porn blind. And just think of your typical scene, like the muscular plumber unzipped his Levi, stuff like that. So,
and the homeowner is stuck underneath the sink trying to pick the garbage disposal.
Yeah, exactly. The plumber was splayed out underneath the family's kitchen sink.
Dang, now I'm getting hot. Jesus.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. I'm gonna start crying in a minute.
On here.
Yeah. Watch this. High Limit's gonna be like, "Hey, we heard about the show you did, and you're fired."
This has nothing to do with them. We're just asking you a question
off camera, or next time I see you guys, I'll have to do like my real spiel of when I pretend I'm narrating that kind of stuff for the blind. I have
that in front of my wife.
I have a much different script that I read, and I won't do it here because this stuff will get clipped and spread all over.
Hey, so
not by you guys. No, not by you guys, but like somebody watching will be like, "Oh, here we go. Now I got one for TLP."
So when we have you and Chase on at the end of the year, we'll have you guys on early. We won't go live, and I want you to do that for me and Blair, so I can piss my pants crying.
Yeah,
so
no doubt.
Save it on his phone and bring.
Yeah, that's right.
That'll be baby number 2.
No doubt. Some people are like, "Hey, will you record my voicemail message, or will you record my my this or my that?" And then you get really weird requests where it's like, "Hey, will you record this audio message to my wife, and I'm just like,
Oh
what?
my.
And then you read it and you're like, I don't think I should be the one saying this. Why don't you say it, dude?
Yeah.
Don't have someone say something that you're planning on doing. You just say what you're going to do.
Right. Well, I think
no.
maybe next year, all the ads we have, I'll just hit you up. We'll pay you whatever your going rate is, and instead of doing my voice, because I hate listening to it. So
I really do like recording voiceover. I won the Spirit Award last year, and that came with a very generous check for $5,000, and I spent some of that on this setup here, and over in the corner of my office here, I have a makeshift sound booth. So I do actually record voiceover work for companies in the racing industry. I do a lot of stuff for companies outside the racing industry, but you never know. Audiobook narration might be the next big thing. I hope not, though, because those books gross me out. Man, I don't know. I don't know if it's necessarily the announcing or the microphone. I think sometimes people, men, women, whatever, you pick the opposite sex. You get attention when you're on TV, when you're a part of the sport that people are fans of. I will tell you this story. I've never told this on a show or probably really to anybody. I did when I was announcing karting full time. I did have a mother of a karting competitor. She took the wireless microphone that I was using, and at the track, nothing crazy happens here, folks. Don't worry. That's nobody.
Okay, I knew where you were going with that. And
no clothing was removed. Let's just get way ahead of that right now. This individual just demonstrated their abilities, and I was taken aback, and I thought, okay,
was it a microphone like you got now, or a little one?
No, it was. That's so funny.
Corn dog.
It was your traditional, just wireless, like PA mic, PA system, handheld mic.
With the big round head on it, not the long shaft.
Yeah,
Brandon's going to use this late. I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah, I'm wondering if this is a typical question you guys ask normal announcers, or if this is just you guys taking up. Did Chase ask you to ask me all this so he could clip it and
no, he deflected the question immediately.
That's funny. Yeah. That's funny. I mean, and just so we're all clear, and I don't like get in too much trouble with anybody today. Like that happened probably over what years now? That happened. This is 2025.
Listen, our fan base is going to love this. I guarantee probably 3,000 views just for what you just said in the last minute. So
that happened probably over 10 years or close to 10 years ago. And that was like when all I was doing was announcing karting, and I was a 19, 20, 21-year-old who was
probably the best story we've ever had on a podcast, to be honest with you.
Yeah. And again, like I'm trying to be, reasonable, because you never know who's watching.
Yeah.
We got kids.
It's nothing bad. No.
No. I dug it up there. That's nothing on you. We're good.
I'll tell you, like I said, next time when we're in pre-show or when I bump into you guys at the track, I will go much further in the explanation and the background. But no, most people see me and the first thought they have is like, Jesus, look at the head on that thing. And they go, wow, I didn't think a 32-year-old's hair could go that far back. And oh my God, he walks like he has two fake hips, and that's because I do. So yeah, I had a PR guy in the IndyCar world that I'm very good friends with once. He called me like the opposite of Benjamin Button. He's like, you were born old, you look young, you're crabby, you drink old people drinks like straight bourbon, and you just look messed up all the time. And I was like, okay, thank you. So
is that a compliment or a dig? I don't know.
Yeah, it was definitely not meant as a compliment, but yeah, no, most people just look at me and they're like, please don't eat me. And and they beat me to the punch. They say, yes, I am still eating that. No, you can't have any. Please go away. So that is definitely the joke. That is the joke in the car. Everybody that I travel with knows they have to, I'm pretty shameless. It's nothing for me to look at a coworker of mine and just be like, hey, are you gonna finish that? So and then I see myself on camera and I wonder why I'm like looking the way I am. So yeah, no, life on the road is super fun, and it's always good for your mental health. And Olive Gardens know me by name now. So that's
your family.
When you're here, you're family.
Yeah, no, truly. When I'm there, I'm like family. They want to leave. So, yeah, we have our spots on the road in Olive Garden. I have more Chipotle points than anyone ever, and that's because of how often we stop there. If they sponsored me, they would get a lot of bang for their buck because I'd rep them, but they'd also lose a lot on my personal service agreement, which would just be like, let me eat for free. So
that's awesome. Next year it'll be instead of Kubota High Limit, it'll be Chipotle or whatever.
I heard a rumor that there was at one point a potential conversation with Chipotle actually to partner with High Limit. Now I have no idea if that's legitimate. I probably just dreamt it in the middle of the night and prayed that it would come true because, man, like if we go to a track and there's a Kubota in the infield, if they use Kubotas to do track prep, I'll try to like jump in it and I'll Google like what kind of like give me the stats on this tractor. I did that at I think Tri-Cities 34 last year. They had a front loader Kubota in the infield, and I went and sat in. And I looked up the stats and Chase threw it to me, and I'm like, yeah, I'm down here in this spacious Kubota front loader 5780, and it's got a payload of this much and a towing of this much, and I'll do stuff like that. But if Chipotle were our sponsor, you'd just
be in the same front loader with burritos.
It would just be like they'd throw it to me for the dice roll or something, and I'd just be like 3/4 of the way through my fourth burrito, and I'd be like, hey, sorry, that was carnitas. I get extra shredded cheese because I'm healthy, and let's see where these dice land. Here, dude, you take the microphone.
We gotta reach out to Chipotle and just tell them.
My dad. It's hilarious. My brother has a podcast because I joke. I'm not taking a shot at you guys because my brother has a podcast about baseball. And I go, good. There's probably not enough about those right now. And my dad listens to it. And my dad's in his mid 60s. And, he's just from a very different generation. But sometimes my brother and his co-host will mention like, oh, yeah, today I had Chipotle for lunch on the show. And my dad's talking on the phone today and he goes, Nick should really let those guys at Chipotle know that he talks about them on his show because they probably sponsor him. I'm just like,
right.
Man, that is not how the world works.
No, yeah. But with what you guys got going on High Limit, it might be more appetizing. See what I did there for him?
Yeah, that'd be good. That'd be a delicious partnership.
Hey, got him.
Chipotle could see a benefit out of like partnering with Kyle Larson. Probably.
Well,
I don't know
anybody
if they
could, right?
I don't know if they'd see a big spike in working with a balding 32-year-old pit reporter.
Oh. Hey, they haven't seen you in your bikini zone outfit. That was
thankfully they they never will. If you guys remember that race last summer when I put the tank top on over my shirt because I was like, I'll look terrible without this polo on underneath it, and then I saw it and I was like, holy shit, you look terrible with that polo on. And then the worst part was I went home and I put the tank top on just bare skin. And I wasn't winning any beauty pageants, but I was like, whoa, you look
like a can of biscuits busted open.
Oh my God. Exactly. I was like, you look so much worse with the polo on, you idiot. So,
we loved it. That was hilarious. That was when I was like, who is this guy? Cause I was like, no, that's awesome.
Well, and then the kicker was, I'm like, all winter, I actually enjoy going to the gym, and I know it doesn't look like it on camera, but during the winter, I go to the gym every single day. I actually do watch what I eat. I really get in decent shape during the winter because you're not driving all godforsaken night. You're not eating hot dogs off of a roller at 4 a.m. and then going straight to sleep. And then all off season, I'm like working out. I'm taking care of myself. And in the back of my head, I'm like, you're actually gonna look worth a shit in that bikini zone top this summer. You're gonna be okay. And then it's 2 weeks out from Eagle Nationals. And I'm like, hey, do we got any more of those bikini zone tank tops for Eagle? And they're like, why? And I'm like, because I'm wearing it this year. And they're like,
no, we don't want to get canceled.
They're like, Bikini Zone's not a sponsor anymore. And I was just like, no, I spent money at Crunch Fitness for this moment. And so I was like, I dieted this winter. I drank Coke Zero instead of Coke. So
all for nothing.
Yeah, literally. And then thankfully we had that pink t-shirt and I ripped the sleeves off of it and we still had fun with it. But yeah, I don't know what we were talking about, but I'm out of shape.
No,
No,
that's
it's
that's
all
it, man.
good.
It was awesome. It was just so funny. I just thought that's so cool. It was just like I said, it's just so different than what we're used to seeing with the
Yeah.
corporate shit.
Yep.
That I don't know any of those IMSA drivers' names, and I don't really care to watch it. But what you're doing now is just an absolute
Yeah.
blast. And so I'm done. We'll Brandon, you can wrap up. But I just say
Yeah.
the next thing you need to do is let you hot lap the sprint cars. Tell them one day. We
Man,
need to get in and go. We want to see that.
I would love to, and that's one of the things that made me really, really, really good as a karting announcer was I raced for years, and I could tell you what was going on, and I could relate, and I could see, and I could understand. I've never driven a sprint car. I've never driven a midget. I've never driven any of the things I talk about, and you do get a fair bit of imposter syndrome because it's tough to look into a camera or look to a grandstand full of people and be like, this is what that guy's going through, because it's like, well, you have no idea, and that's why former racers make incredible commentators. Brad Doty always did a great job. Dominic Scelzi, when he gets in the booth with Johnny, I don't know if he's ever been in the booth with Chase, but like when you get former athletes, when you get former,
Yeah, I think Justin Peck was up there a couple weeks ago.
yeah. Well, that was just for a fan fest interview to kill the downtime. But like when you get a guy in the booth or down in the pit who can call and commentate and analyze what's going on, it's so much better than the guy like Dylan Welch. He was High Limits inaugural season announcer. Well, he still races. He was at the BC 39. He does the Chili Bowl. Guys that have the knowledge and have done it make phenomenal commentators. I would love to. I would absolutely want to. I don't know if I'd be brave enough to actually do it. But like, yeah, if there was ever the opportunity to climb behind the wheel of a midget, or a very, very, very tamed, turned down, like 305, maybe I would try it. But also the problem is you got to find a seat wide enough and a cage tall enough. And
Get you in a Big Max, you'd be fine.
yeah, I believe me, I wouldn't turn it down. I thought I was going to be a Legends car driver at Erie, and then I thought I was going to buy Mark Neff's Pro Truck and race out there. And thankfully, none of that happened. And I found out I'm better with a microphone than a steering wheel. And it's all worked out okay, I think, to this point so far.
Absolutely. Yeah. And all jokes aside, we obviously greatly appreciate you coming on tonight, but keep up the great work with, everybody on your team that you rattled off, obviously Chase, and you are who the viewers really get to see, but I know there's a lot of behind the scenes work, but you guys are absolutely crushing it. I think High Limit and 410 sprint car racing has just skyrocketed in the last 3 years. And you guys have a huge part in that. So round of applause for you guys. And, you got however many people are watching and listening right now, just in Colorado, huge fans of you guys. We'll continue to watch, listen. And like I said, we'll be in touch. And I do want to know about the NXT thing from you. And then we're going to get you and Chase on in October.
Yeah, no, absolutely. If I can find out some information about that, I'll hit you up in the next couple of weeks. But I appreciate you guys having me on. It's I miss Colorado and I miss home and I miss where I'm from really, really badly. But I'm in a position where I need to be where I am for work, and it's so nice to live here and just walk into a business, walk into a grocery store, walk into a restaurant, and bump in two drivers, two crew members, two car owners, two family members of people in the industry. And then also Colorado has just gotten so tough to live in financially. Certainly, for some people politically, whatever side of the aisle you're on, Colorado is definitely different than it used to be, but I still love it. I still miss it. And it's good to talk about it a little bit. A lot of people don't know where it is on the map in this sport because we never go there. And I just hope people watching, yourselves included, can make the long drive out to a track nearby, whether it's Eagle, whether it's Lakeside. Dodge City. I know those are hauls, and I know it's far, and I know it's a lot of money. But until we can get out there to Colorado for some sprint car racing, I hope as many people as possible can come out east and see us. And or Vegas. I think Vegas is going to happen next year, where we go out there to start the year. So I appreciate you guys having me on. It's good to talk to some people from back home, and look forward to doing it again, maybe at the end of the year or close to it.
Yeah, and absolutely. And if you're ever in the area on one of your off weekends, let Blair and I know, and we'll
where in the state are both of you guys?
He's in Pueblo. I'm in Denver proper, about 10 miles south of the business district. So Cherry Hills Village, if you're
Yeah,
you know where
yeah,
that is.
yeah,
But,
absolutely. So, yeah, I've got friends in. I got a buddy with a house in Broomfield that I stay at when I'm out there. My dad still lives
perfect.
up north in Greeley with my sister. Still lives at home with him, and I've got buddies in Rifle and Grand Junction because I went to
Perfect.
college at Mesa, like we talked about. So, yeah, no, I appreciate you guys having me on. I'm sorry I go so long. You guys probably had a lot
No.
more
We loved
questions that
it.
I ate
No.
up more
Hey,
time.
we're going to have you on multiple times. So it's all good.
Yeah, well, no, it's good to talk to y'all, and I really appreciate it. And thanks for keeping the word of sprint car racing alive out there in the Rocky Mountains.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right on,
Well,
man.
we appreciate it, Tony, and we'll be in touch. And yeah, Tony LaPorta on the Throwin Sliders podcast. Appreciate it, buddy.
Hey, thank you guys. Yeah, have
See
a
ya.
great night.
Yeah, you
You
too.
too.
Wow, how do we follow that up?
That was pretty awesome.
That was awesome. I'm so glad we got that one in there. So yeah, I don't even know what we had planned for the rest of the evening. I do know we had Dirt Dollars, and I think we want to talk about some local Colorado stuff. So we'll jump right into it. Thank you all for sticking with us. And yeah, but before we do that, obviously got to shout out the people who make this go around. So Mountain Ops. You guys have heard us talk about it for the last couple of weeks. Been seeing a lot of posts. That's all for Mountain Ops and what we're building with them. So, support those. I always like to say support those who support you. It's a great brand. Blair and I obviously are using it. We're not, cutting the BS with you. Like, we're actually using it. It's good stuff. And it's not just for working out and stuff like that. Blair actually has a story from this weekend of drivers using the hydration packets. Hydrate is what they call them. And it's great stuff. So again, if you're not aware of it, you just by listening to this podcast, being acquaintances with Blair and I, use the code TS podcast and you'll get 20% off your order any day of the week. It's unlimited. Order as much stuff as you want, anytime, anywhere. If you see Blair and I, out and about at the tracks, we are enabled to give some products out for you to sample and obviously get hooked on it. But yeah, so with that being said, we'll jump right into the Mountain Ops ad, and then Blair and I and Tara are going to do a little Dirt Dollars for Florence at this upcoming weekend. Whether you're chasing checkered flags, chasing elk in the mountains, casting a line, or crushing early morning workouts in the gym, there's one name every high performer should know: Mountain Ops. This team fuels athletes, hunters, racers, and weekend warriors with the cleanest, hardest-hitting supplements on the market. Let's be honest, this sport isn't for the soft. Late nights in the garage, long drives to the track, and hot evenings in the pits and in the car. We are built different. That's why we run on Mountain Ops. Their supplements hit hard, feel clean, and don't have all that junk you can't pronounce. From early mornings to late nights on race day, this is the stuff that keeps the crew moving and ready for the next lap. Want in? Head to mtnops.com, enter code TS Podcast at checkout, and get 20% off your order. That's right, enter code TSPODCAST at checkout for 20% off your order. You don't just want to show up, you want to win. Fuel like you mean it. Winners use Mountain Ops. Proud supporting partner of the Throwin Sliders podcast. There we go. I'll drink to that.
Oh yeah, I already finished mine. I was thirsty. It's hot.
I know. And I just splashed the hell out of my face. Good stuff. All right. So Florence Speedway, as we talked about with Mr. LaPorta, they were scheduled. High Limit was scheduled to go there last year. Unfortunately, got rained out, so we don't have any statistics. Who we want to? Let's go with your wife. Who's she picking?
We'll let her comment roll in. She might only know one or two drivers, actually. So I don't know if it'll be based in. I think she's been mixing it up. But I'm going to go right again. I just, it was funny hearing what he had to say about him because, like I said, I didn't know that he even had people that didn't like him. I just used to like to watch the way he drove when I didn't know anything about sprint car racing. I was like, this guy's nuts. And that's always how people would always just tell me, like, even just like, you're dumb, Yeah.
So Oh, Justin Peck. Big Peck energy. Love it. And like I brought up with Tony there, like I didn't know really much anything about Reitzel, but watching, he's similar to a Corey Day in the way he drives. Like he's not, I would say, as reckless as Corey or Larson are, but like he will make moves that have like a 10% chance of working, and he comes out on the other side with checker flag. So I've gained in the last couple of weeks some appreciation for his driving style, and like to Tony's point, like I think just by his interviews and stuff, he seems like a pretty good dude. But since you picked him, I'm not going to go with Rico. Obviously, Rico and Reitzel have been hot. They've been on heaters lately. And I would love to see the actual odds when they come out Thursday, Friday, but I'm going to pick Thorson. And I think that he's right there. You know, he's gained leaps and bounds from where,
fast.
Yeah. And obviously he came up about 10 feet short the other night. But I think he's just found something switching crew chiefs, and they've been gaining a lot. So I'm going to go with Mr. Tanner Thorson. So fortunately we don't have the odds. Yeah. So
running the coilover package. That is cool to see something different. You know, it's not very common anymore.
Yeah. So we'll see. But yeah, I'm pulling for him, and we'll see what he's got. So what did we want to talk about? You were crew chiefing there at Honor.
I mean, shit, we went late tonight, so I know everybody's probably, but quick rundown. Yeah, I built a wing, worked 4th of July, couldn't race. I was pretty disappointed, couldn't go up there. I saw Kelly Miller won the first night up in South Dakota. Adam Trimble, he's still hot. He won in Gillette the next night. Yep. While I was down here, went and helped my buddy Keaton Shore out. Went to Honor Speedway local. He's running the Sport Mod, and that's why I said Sport Mod God, because he got 2 in a row with a car that we had to really work on, and so that was a lot of fun out there. And the track honestly was great. They had a box drag, so that Brian Parks, my buddy out there, he's put a hell of a lot of work in trying to get people and equipment out there. And man, for a local place, you love to see it when it's smooth, fast, held some moisture, even though it was 101 degrees during the day. And then, it didn't blow into a dust bowl either night, really. I mean, it was a pretty good racing surface. So a lot of fun. It was fun helping Keaton and getting to see everybody and, talk to the local guys and talk racing, podcast, all that. So, and that was 2 nights, and just fireworks went off. It sounded like Chirac in here in my neighborhood. So finally got to sleep, and it was a long weekend, but we're making progress. So we'll be back at it here. We're trying to decide where we're going to go. But yeah, really, that's it. More racing. It's like I can't escape it.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're local in the Calhoun area this weekend, they got the Open Wheel Madness July 12th, the Rocky Mountain Midgets, Lightning Sprint 600s, and Dwarfs and Junior Compacts. So if you're in the area, July 12th, go get a ticket. I assume the weather's going to be great. I haven't looked at it, but get your butts in seats and support local racing. So with that, hell of an episode. Hope you guys like that. I had a hunch that was going to be a very good episode. Just with no credit to Blair and I, just who we had on there. So we just sat back and listened. So hopefully you enjoyed that. Please go like, share this episode. Go subscribe to our YouTube page. We've been getting a lot more followers on our new Instagram page, so we appreciate that. We always like to follow you back, unless you're a bot, and then we don't do that because you get weird messages. So, we appreciate all the support, and we'll be back again next Monday, 7:30 as always. And so on Blair and I's behalf, thank you, and keep throwing those sliders. This is another production of Scrub and Tires Media. The Throwin Sliders podcast is hosted by Blair Cooper and Brandon Hall. Video and audio was created by Bryce Holcomb. Please like, share, and leave a 5-star review. And as always, keep throwing those sliders.